試験監督者は音量及び室内の聞こえ具合を確認してください。2024年度第3回実用英語技能検定1級リスニングテスト。ただいまから1級リスニングテストを行います。これからお話しすることについて質問は受けませんので、よく注意して聞いてください。なお、リスニングテスト放送中に音飛びや騒音があった場合は、発生した問題のトラックの始めに戻し、やり直します。しかしながら、万が一、教室監督者が気づかない場合は、速やかに手を挙げてお知らせ願います。このテストでは、テストの方法と注意事項がすべて英語で放送されます。
The listening test for the Grade 1 examination is about to begin. Listen carefully to the directions. You will not be permitted to ask questions during the test. This test has 4 parts. All of the questions in these 4 parts are multiple choice questions. For each question, choose the best answer from among the 4 choices written in your test booklet. On your answer sheet, find the number of the question and mark your answer. You are permitted to take notes for every part of this listening test. Now, here are the directions for Part 1. In this part, you will hear 10 dialogues, number 1 through number 10. Each dialogue will be followed by 1 question. For each question, you will have 10 seconds to choose the best answer and mark your answer on your answer sheet. The dialogue and the question will be given only once.
Now we will begin the Grade 1 listening test. Number 1.
It's amazing that your catering firm is beating most of the competition easily, despite the fact that you have no website.
A lot of entrepreneurs put too much emphasis on social media marketing when they'd be better off focusing on building real relationships and providing an honest service.
So your strategy is to build a following with your brand and let your customers spread the word about your business?
Exactly. We've made a huge effort to cultivate relationships with our clients over the years, which has really paid off.
Question. What reason does the man give for his company's success?
Number 2.
What did you think of Madison's remarks during the meeting?
She certainly has a way of dismissing others' ideas without much consideration. I couldn't believe what she said about Rick's suggestion for the budget.
It's unfortunate when someone fails to recognize the value of different perspectives.
Absolutely. There needs to be a respectful atmosphere where people can speak freely if you want a meeting to be successful.
You're right. It would really make things better around here if she learned some humility.
Question. What do the people imply about Madison?
Number 3.
Thanks for agreeing to be interviewed on my radio show tomorrow. I'm excited to speak with someone who's launched such an innovative business and at such a young age, too.
It's an honor. I'm sorry my schedule didn't allow it earlier. I've tuned in to every episode of your show.
You must be familiar with the format then. But let me walk you through the questions I will ask.
An overview would be great. That'll help me sort out what I want to say and how best to articulate it.
Question. What will the woman likely do next?
Number 4.
I'd like to get this watercolor painting framed, please.
Certainly. You'll need to have a frame custom made, though, since it's not a standard size.
That's fine. I'm not a big fan of the pre-made options anyway.
All these materials hanging behind me are the frame materials that are available. Let me know if you want a price estimate for any of them.
OK. By the way, please keep in mind that the paper is extremely delicate.
Of course. The framing process won't harm it at all.
Question. What is the woman concerned about?
Number 5.
Brentwick Real Estate. Gwen speaking.
Hello, this is Trent Sturridge. I'm calling to find out the status of my offer on the Green Street property.
I'm afraid the owner got 5 offers on the house, yours included, and rejected them all. He's taking bids, but unless you're willing to offer $50,000 more, you'll probably be out of luck.
I see. I'd be willing to offer $30,000 more, but that would be a stretch financially.
Yes, even if the owner accepted your bid, securing a larger loan might be tough with your salary.
Question. What does the woman imply?
Number 6.
Hey, Liz, are you attending the communication training workshop this week?
Sure, I thought it was mandatory.
So did I, but it turns out it's not. Ironically, the HR manager failed to make that clear.
Honestly, it seems misguided to focus on helping employees improve communication when nothing in this company is transparent.
I know. The training workshop should be mandatory for everyone, including the managers and directors.
Let's hope it's a sign they're starting to focus more on employees. In the long run, that might lead to more transparency.
Question. What do these people think?
Number 7.
Have you noticed any changes in your vision since your last exam, Sandra?
Well, I don't think my current glasses prescription is right anymore. Even with my glasses on, things often look blurry, especially up close.
An outdated prescription is one possible cause. I'll also check for cataracts and astigmatism. They cause problems with focus as well.
Whatever it is, I hope you get to the bottom of it. I miss being able to read.
Well, no guarantees, but at least I can rule some things out today.
Question. What is one thing the man says to the woman?
Number 8.
Did you hear the news? The famous band from the 90s, the Lemon Ghosts, will be playing at the benefit concert for the local hospital next month.
Didn't the band break up years ago?
Yeah, I heard the members weren't even on speaking terms with each other for years.
I guess this must be a special appearance for them then.
It's wonderful that they can put aside all the negativity between them for a worthwhile cause like this.
Question. What does the woman say about the band? Number 9.
What are your thoughts on the new tax legislation? They are cutting taxes for some of the wealthiest segments of society.
I know, and the middle class will suffer as usual. Based on my calculations, my taxes will likely increase a little next year under the new rules. Why should the rich reap the benefits?
My understanding is that the government is intent on stemming an exodus of the super-rich. It seems they've been leaving the country to avoid high taxes. When this happens, the government's overall tax revenues suffer.
So, by lowering taxes, the government hopes to persuade them to return or not to leave in the first place?
That seems to be the gist of it.
But how does that benefit people like us?
Well, the wealthy have the financial clout to establish new businesses or invest large sums into new technologies. The logic is that if such ventures succeed, they will boost employment and ultimately stimulate economic growth.
That's an interesting argument. I'm not convinced, though. I still think giving the middle class a tax break would be the just thing to do.
Question. What is the man's opinion?
Number 10.
What did you two think of that lecture?
It was interesting, but I thought it was a little biased.
What do you mean?
Well, the professor emphasized the benefits of genetic engineering, but he didn't say anything about the ethical issues or possible risks.
I suppose so. But it's true that genetic engineering has some major benefits.
Right. It's allowed scientists to create crops that can grow in extreme climates for a start. That's helped improve food security for millions of people around the world.
I don't deny that it can be used for good purposes, but I also think it's dangerous to interfere with nature at such a fundamental level.
Okay, but farmers have been altering plants and animals for thousands of years through selective breeding.
Yes, but it's being done on a much larger scale these days. And I don't think scientists can predict the consequences. Genetically modified plants and animals could have a negative effect on biodiversity if they enter the environment.
That's true, but I think strict regulations can reduce the risks.
I agree with you on that point, but the technology has developed so quickly that there aren't sufficient laws relating to it at the moment.
I must admit, that is a little worrying. Let's hope new ones are introduced soon.
Question. What do these people agree on regarding genetic engineering?
Here are the directions for Part 2. In this part, you will hear 5 passages, A through E. Each passage will be followed by 2 questions, number 11 through number 20. For each question, you will have 10 seconds to choose the best answer and mark your answer on your answer sheet. The passage and the questions will be given only once. Now, let's begin.
A. Finding the way. Sense of direction varies widely among individuals. Some people are excellent navigators, while others often get lost even in familiar places. In the past, researchers monitoring rodents' brain activity found evidence suggesting navigational ability is genetically acquired. However, findings from a recent large-scale study indicated innate factors might have less importance. In this study, the researchers had participants navigate a virtual space. They found navigational ability was higher among people from Scandinavian countries, where the navigation-related sport of orienteering is popular. People living in cities where streets are not neatly arranged in grid networks also performed well, suggesting that having to navigate disorganized surroundings makes people better navigators. Scientists recognize various strategies that contribute to navigational ability, but studies have generally focused on 2. Route following, which involves using landmarks to navigate, and survey knowledge, which involves constructing and utilizing mental maps. While the former is easier, scientists suggest the latter is more important, as it allows for creativity to find ways around barriers and employ various navigation strategies. Furthermore, some scientists believe proficient navigators are more capable than others at switching between strategies depending on their situation. This allows them to find their way more easily in new environments.
Questions. Number 11. What did the recent study suggest about navigational ability? Number 12. What do some scientists believe about good navigators? B. The Great Smog. In the winter of 1952, a thick blanket of fog mixed with toxic fumes descended on London. What later became known as the Great Smog brought the city's transportation system to a standstill and caused chaos for several days. Smog had been occurring in London for hundreds of years as a result of coal being burned for heating and fuel, but the manufacturing boom brought about by the Industrial Revolution worsened the problem. Factories pumped out large amounts of noxious gases, and in December 1952, environmental conditions caused the smog to build up to an unprecedented level. The Great Smog had a negative impact on the health of city residents, with many people suffering from breathing problems after inhaling the polluted air. Those with pre-existing conditions such as pneumonia and bronchitis were particularly vulnerable, and thousands are thought to have died as a result of the incident. Following the Great Smog, greater efforts were made to tackle air pollution in London, and a few years later, the government implemented the first Clean Air Act. This designated smoke-free areas in the city and restricted the burning of coal in homes and factories.
Questions. Number 13. According to the speaker, what is true about the Great Smog? Number 14. What was one outcome of the Great Smog?
C. Micro and nanoplastics. Scientists believe that micro and nanoplastic particles, or MNPs, can now be found in most marine and terrestrial environments, and these are where MNP researchers have tended to focus. However, given that humans consume or inhale MNPs, scientists have been turning the spotlight on MNP's effects on humans. A laboratory study investigated the dynamics between commercially available polystyrene MNPs and certain types of cancer cells found in the digestive tract. The results confirmed that the chemical composition of MNPs makes it hard to break them down, leading to MNPs persisting in the human body. The researchers also made a surprising discovery. Not only did the cancer cells take in the MNPs, but they then distributed the MNPs to new cells during the process of cell division. The results raise concerns regarding the possible long-term toxicity effects of MNP accumulation and the potential of the particles to increase the speed of cell division. Nevertheless, the researchers point out that their study had a limited scope and that the data is just a starting point. Outside observers agree that further studies are needed to understand the mechanisms at play. They recommend that such studies use MNPs that are more representative of those humans are exposed to in the real world.
Questions. Number 15. Why were the researchers in the study surprised? Number 16. What is one thing outside observers think?
D. Shoplifting. News reports these days frequently contain stories about an alleged shoplifting epidemic that is sweeping the United States. Many experts, however, believe that claims about the amount of retail theft may be greatly exaggerated. In particular, reports about a statistic known as shrink, which refers to losses in inventory, have raised various doubts. Some retailers have claimed tremendous rises in shrink and sometimes attribute them to professional shoplifting organizations. However, experts point out that shrink includes things like damaged goods, inventory control errors, and other factors unconnected to crime, and have accused the retailers of overstating the degree to which shoplifting affects shrink. Some retailers have also blamed declining profits and even store closures on increased shoplifting. Critics, however, suggest that things like overexpansion and competition from online shopping may actually be to blame in many cases. They also argue that retailers' claims may not only be inaccurate, but could also negatively impact vulnerable members of society. In recent years, reformers in the justice system have been attempting to reduce penalties for shoplifting. For example, one city stopped prosecuting low-level crimes that are associated with poverty, such as shoplifting. The perception that there is a shoplifting epidemic, however, could undermine such efforts.
Questions. Number 17. What do experts say about the numbers in shrink statistics? Number 18. What do critics suggest increased reporting on shoplifting may lead to?
E. Henrietta Leavitt. Henrietta Swan Leavitt was an early 20th century American astronomer. Using the latest photographic equipment, she studied Cepheid variables, stars that vary in brightness for specific periods. Leavitt discovered that the time it takes for a Cepheid variable to brighten and dim correlates to the star's true brightness or luminosity. Once a star's luminosity was known, it could be compared to how bright it appeared once the light reached Earth. With this information, astronomers had the foundation to apply complex calculations to measure the distances between Earth and stars with considerable precision. Leavitt and her contemporary female scientists faced institutional and societal biases. They were often poorly paid, and some observers claim prejudice meant Leavitt was not given due credit for her crucial discovery. Historically speaking, however, it is now clear how groundbreaking Leavitt's achievements were. The astronomer Edwin Hubble, for example, applied her findings to great effect. He proved that some distant patches of light, thought by some to be clouds of dust and gas, contained Cepheid variables and were, in fact, entire galaxies. In identifying galaxies other than the Milky Way, he also changed scientists' understanding of the scale of the universe.
Questions. Number 19. What is one thing we learn about Henrietta Swan Leavitt's discovery? Number 20. According to some observers, what was one problem Leavitt experienced in her career?
Here are the directions for Part 3. In this part, you will hear 5 passages, F through J. The passages represent real-life situations and may contain sound effects. Each passage will have one question, number 21 through number 25. Before each passage, you will have 10 seconds to read the situation and question written in your test booklet. After you hear the passage, you will have 10 seconds to choose the best answer and mark your answer on your answer sheet. The passage will be given only once. Now, let's begin.
F. You have 10 seconds to read the situation and question number 21.
Good evening. This is Felipe from Cardinal Tours. I'm sorry, but we've had to cancel tomorrow's Architectural Wonders tour. However, we can reserve a spot for you on a different tour. The Urban Landmarks tour covers some of the sites included in the Architectural Wonders tour. It's 1 hour long and begins at 1:30 p.m. The Culinary Adventures tour begins at the same time. It's a 3-hour journey that brings you to the best cafes and food stalls downtown. Next, we have the Skyline Exploration. This 1.5-hour tour begins at 10 a.m. and takes you to 3 famous skyscraper observation towers. Finally, if you'd like to explore local craft shops and souvenir markets, consider joining the Local Treasures Tour from 10:30 to 11:30 a.m. You are guaranteed to leave with some lovely crafts or handmade clothing pieces. Thank you, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Now mark your answer on your answer sheet.
G. You have 10 seconds to read the situation and question number 22.
Okay, that's the end of the lecture. But I want to talk briefly about study groups. These are small groups of students who get together regularly to share ideas and get feedback from each other. Most groups meet one evening each week in one of the study rooms in the library. Joining a study group is not a required part of this course, but I highly recommend it. Most students find them very helpful when writing assignments. Those of you who are interested in doing this, please stay behind after this class. I'll split you into groups of 4 or 5. If you can't stay behind but want to join a group, come and see me during my office hours, and I'll add you to one. If you're not interested in joining a study group, you're free to leave now.
Now, mark your answer on your answer sheet.
H. You have 10 seconds to read the situation and question number 23.
The most recent novel I read was A Small Shadow. The author's style was amazing, although it was rather gloomy overall. What I liked best, though, was how thought-provoking her ideas were about what a just society would be like. I also liked an uplifting book I read called A Few Cogs Loose. It was a shallow yet highly entertaining novel about an incompetent inventor in the 1500s. Oh, there's also a great book called The Song of Misery, which is about as depressing as its name suggests. The concepts the author discusses related to how morality can depend on the situation a person is in blew my mind. Finally, there's Tomorrow's Echoes. I can't remember when I've read anything so inspiring. It's about pioneers settling the American West. The characters face numerous moral dilemmas that may have you questioning a lot of your assumptions about ethics.
Now, mark your answer on your answer sheet.
I. You have 10 seconds to read the situation and question number 24.
In most early retirement cases, I recommend working until 60, which is 3 years in your case. That would give you extra income and boost your pension. I usually also recommend downsizing for those with mortgages. However, you're in an unusual position. You say your company is offering you and several other employees attractive severance packages for voluntary redundancy as part of its restructuring efforts. I also note you are due to receive a significant inheritance from a recently deceased relative. So I've made some calculations and think you could quit this year. To achieve this, however, you need to invest both the inheritance and the package into a high-yielding dividend fund that provides yearly income. It may be tempting to use it to pay off the mortgage, but I would not recommend it because you have a low interest rate locked in, which is great.
Now mark your answer on your answer sheet.
J. You have 10 seconds to read the situation and question number 25.
My number one recommendation for families is usually the walk around Lake Grenada, especially at this time of year when the water level is high. Unfortunately, there's been an outbreak of a mosquito-borne illness, and mosquitoes breed in the still water along the shoreline. As a precaution, we recommend avoiding the lakeshore for now, but you can still get great views of the lake by hiking the Brainerd Mountain Trail to the lookout point. It's steep and rocky, so it's recommended only for experienced adult hikers. If you have camping gear, you can hike to Toledo Falls. It's an easy, level route, and you can pitch a tent near the waterfall. It's too far to go and come back in one day, though. Finally, you could explore the forest on Mount Toro. It's only a 20-minute drive from the visitor center, and it's full of interesting plants and wildlife.
Now mark your answer on your answer sheet.
Finally, here are the directions for Part 4. In this part, you will hear an interview. The interview will be followed by 2 questions, number 26 and number 27. For each question, you will have 10 seconds to choose the best answer and mark your answer on your answer sheet. The interview and the questions will be given only once.
This is an interview with Paisley Brightman, an occupational therapist.
Welcome, Paisley. Thanks for joining us on Career Corner today.
Not at all. It's a pleasure to be here.
To get us started, could you tell us a bit about occupational therapy and the work you do?
Sure. First, I'll dispel a misconception that many people have about what occupational therapy is. Because of the job title, many people believe that occupational therapy is all about helping people with physical and mental disabilities to function in the workplace. That might be part of what we do, but the work is much broader than that. Occupational therapists work with people of all ages to help them deal with their disabilities and allow them to participate as fully as possible in all their daily activities. However, I specialize in working with children who have conditions that affect their physical and mental development, so their main occupations are going to school and socializing with other kids. These are things that most kids take for granted, but they can be a challenge for the kids I work with.
That sounds like important work. I imagine it can also be quite stressful.
Of course, working with children can be very emotional, and things certainly don't always turn out as you hope or expect, so you have to have a lot of patience. On the other hand, it's extremely rewarding when you see the children benefit from the coping strategies you help them develop. When I first started doing this work, I made the mistake of thinking it was my job to cure the children, which gave me completely unrealistic expectations and led me to doubt my ability. I think that's a trap many young occupational therapists fall into. But once I understood that my job was to help the children learn strategies that would allow them to lead fuller lives, I could start appreciating the progress they were making on a daily basis.
Related to that, what is the biggest challenge you face at work?
I think one of the hardest things for me is dealing with the parents. They're often under a lot of stress and are understandably very committed to ensuring their children get the best care. It can be difficult for them to understand the process I use, which involves teaching the children behaviors that can sometimes take a long time to master. To help overcome this, I try to include the parents as much as possible and incorporate their points of view into the approaches I take to helping their children.
You've been an occupational therapist for over 20 years now. Has the profession changed much during that time?
In terms of the basic principles behind what we do, I don't think so. But therapists like myself have a much wider range of tools at our disposal these days. For example, there are now a lot of excellent educational apps for computers and tablets that can make our jobs easier. In my case, they're really useful for helping the children I work with improve their motor skills, such as hand-eye coordination. And they're also great for speech therapy and practicing communication skills. One of the best things about them is that they're fun, so they provide natural motivation for the kids and also reduce the amount of stress they experience.
Okay, I'm afraid that's all we have time for. Many thanks for coming in to talk to us today, Paisley.
You're welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
Questions. Number 26. What is one thing Paisley Brightman says about her work? Number 27. What is one thing Paisley says about how occupational therapy has changed?
Your time is up. Stop writing and wait quietly until the answer sheets have been collected.
では、時間です。筆記用具を置いて答えの記入をやめてください。これにて試験終了となります。公正なる試験実施にご協力いただきありがとうございました。質問がある方は直ちに試験監督者にお申し出ください。試験監督者に連絡いたします。これより最終の受験者数を確認してください。その後、回答用紙を回収し、枚数の確認を行ってください。なお、問題冊子は回収しません。受験者数と回答用紙の枚数の一致を確認してから解散の指示を出してください。受験者の皆さんは身の回りをよく点検し、忘れ物がないように注意してください。受験者の皆さんが退出するときは別の教室が試験中の場合もありますので、声を出さず会場出口まで静かに退出してください。それでは解散の指示を出すまで静かにお待ちください。